what we found. I'm very excited. Very excited. And it does look like they managed at least a snack. You can see the youngster that's standing there, that juvenile that's standing there. You can see that the belly is hanging, not fat, but hanging a little bit low. So I'm glad they managed something. And I'm also glad that they've decided to be out in the open where they are. We've been searching and searching, and I know Steph and Herbie have been searching and searching. And luckily, we've got them. There's the tiny little cub. So this is the Nkuhuma Pride, and everybody is present except for Amber Eyes. Amber Eyes is one of the lionesses that has this gorgeous color to her eyes, like amber. And she at last was seen mating with one of the Birmingham males. Not far from here, but we haven't picked up on her in a couple of days. So hopefully we'll manage to find them at some point again. Ling Fang, good question. You want to know why is it so hard for the lions to find food on Djuma? Well, Ling Fang, it can be hard for lions anywhere. Lions are not successful 100% of the time. A pride this size with this many youngsters, so let's say Amber Eyes was also present, you've got the 5 females together. Their success rate of those 5 females together is only around 20%. It's not going to get much higher than that. So they move around, whether it's on Djuma or any of our neighboring properties, and they will hunt and they will stalk, but they're not always going to get what they're looking for. Then because there's so many youngsters in this pride, they eat quite a bit, just like growing humans. Growing lions also need quite a lot of meat. So if they only get something small, then a lot of that meat's going to go to the youngsters, and then they have to kill something again. So the females do look for full-grown zebra, and they look for giraffe, and they look for large prey species so that they can be full for a long time. Lions can go at the maximum up to about 2 weeks without feeding, but that's really pushing it. They usually will be successful once or twice a week. Now, you will find scenarios, especially when we go into a drought, where they'll be more successful because the prey species are concentrated fully around very scarce water sources. Also, during the dry season, our winter season, which will be in a few months, that's the case as well. And then they tend to do a little bit better. You'll find where Taylor and Ralph are up in the Mara, you'll sometimes run into scenarios where during, say, the migration, which happens end of July through September, they are just full all the time because there's so many wildebeest and zebra around. But then as the migration moves on, it can sometimes be a little bit trickier for them to find food. Margaret, good question. You want to know if the full moon affects hunting abilities with lions. So on and off throughout my career, I've had many different opinions expressed about this, and I've just sort of kept an eye on it myself. So from my personal experience, the answer is no. I've seen lions hunting at full moon, and I've seen them hunting at dark moon, and I've seen them hunting anywhere in between. I do have friends who've been in the industry for a while who say that during full moon they'll tend to have more of a break. There's a diker making a mad dash down the road. He came out of that drainage line and saw these lions and was like, oh no. Okay, the diker got away. Not that they would necessarily go for the diker. It's a little bit small, but the youngsters might want to try. So we're coming up to full moon now. They've seen something, sorry. Could have just been that diker moving. There could also be something else down in the drainage line we can't see. But it was cloudy last night, which means that was possibly helpful. It was also windy and rainy. That was also helpful for them to get a snack. And then it was also, because of that cloud cover, it means anyone that's doing any anti-poaching work had probably a quieter night than they would normally have during full moon. Okay, whatever was moving down there, they're not that interested in anymore. Now, even though they managed a snack last night, I do think that if anything comes their way, they will definitely try again. All these hungry mouths around. They also digest their food pretty quickly, being mostly a protein diet. And that's one of the reasons why they stuff themselves when they do eat. This young male that's in front of us here is having a little bit of a rest, but I just want you guys to take a look at the mane that's starting to form. We looked at it a little bit the other day. You see his little peach fuzz coming through there around the bottom of his chin. And then notice around the coloration around that is looking like he had his head stuck into something. Now, a lot of the adult females are starting to groom themselves, which means that they're possibly going to get moving at some point. And I think as long as you all are okay with it, and I don't think you'll say no to me, I think we're going to stick with these Nkuhumas for most of our drive this morning. They've grown a lot, Taylor. I know you've been away for a while, but the little ones have gotten quite big. We've come to the portion of the morning where it's bath time. And we have a lot of grooming that's happening, getting all of the love out there, a little bit of a hug. And making sure everything's in the right place. Lions and leopards, in particular for me, are some of the best mum-children interactions that I can think of. I mean, look at that. And they really do spend time with each other. It's all reaffirming that social bond. So she's already groomed this one as well as another one. This is our female that has that injury on the back left, but you can see she still walks fine. And then there's another lioness that's lying over here in the bushes. I'm sure she's just going to go over a greet and also do a little bit of reaffirmation of that social bond. Or possibly keep walking. We'll have to wait and see. I haven't quite been able to tell if whatever they killed is near here or if it's away. I haven't seen them sort of trying to access any meat from any bushes that I can see. But I am keeping an eye out for just in case I've missed something. And she's going to lie down there. Now, the rest of the pride is still also quite lazy in the shade over here. Now, remember, lions sleep for about 16 to 20 hours a day. Sometimes a little bit less, depending if they're hungry, and sometimes a little bit more, depending if they're full. These lions are half full, let's say. And so I think that we will get some nice movement out of them. We've also got a really nice view of the tiny little cub having a little nap over this side. And since we had such good views of Tandi and her little cub, here's a little lion cub. Lauren, you'd like to know if the cubs will ever go off on their own. So, Lauren, they're a bit too young for that. This little one in particular, definitely not. The older ones are also still too young. And lions are the only large cats that live in a pride system where the females live in the system together. And they need that system. It enables them to be able to hunt larger prey, and also they're very social, as you saw with that grooming there. They like the company. I'm not going to say every single lioness. I do know I worked with a lioness that broke away from her pride and then had cubs and then never went back. And she used to fight with her sisters and her mom every time they came near her. So you will get some individual personalities there. Now, if these youngsters were to be, say, kicked out of the pride now at this age, they would have a very hard time surviving. Sometimes what you'll see, especially in larger prides, when male and female cubs reach around 2 years old, they'll split off. And sometimes they split off and then go and make their own pride. And sometimes just the males will split off. And sometimes the females will split off at that age and then come back a little while later, depending on what's happening within the greater ecosystem where they're trying to survive. I've seen all of those different scenarios. I've also seen a scenario where we've had a young male, and he was only kicked out by the dominant male when he was about 6 years old, as he really started coming into his own. And his mom used to protect him quite hectically. I think she was actually preferring him over the other male. Lions will inbreed up to 10 generations. Joan, you'd like to know when when the male lions get their full manes. Joan, they start getting their peach fuzz sort of early on, around a year, and then it starts getting a little bit longer, around 2 years. There you can see a little bit of the peach fuzz there. By the time they're about 4 or 5 years old, their full mane should be in. I've seen males get to their full mane younger than that. The youngest I've ever personally seen was 3 years old, and I was duly impressed. And then I've also seen it take up to 6 years for the full mane to come in. And I think it just depends on how many other males are in the area, what the testosterone levels are like, what the food is like. Sometimes you'll find with young males, if they've really struggled throughout their cubhood to be fed, that their manes will take a little bit longer to come in. And then also if they're struggling during the nomadic period before they find a territory of their own, it will also affect the growth of their mane. And I've also worked with lions. We talked about it a little bit last week. A male lion that climbed up a tree and fell out, and the stress of it made him lose his mane. And then, funnily enough, talking about manes, there's some females in Botswana who's... Well, we've managed to move a whole 50 meters, so about a whole 50 yards. We haven't gone very far. Everyone's still a little bit lazy from that snack that they managed to get last night. And there's been slight action, but nothing to write home about. But it is just nice to be with one of our favorite prides of lions, Nkuhumas, here live in the Sabi Sands. And don't forget, everybody, hashtag Safari Live on the Twitter or on YouTube chat. And we love your questions and comments, so send them through. And we've got a little bit of grooming that's happening here, so hopefully she'll get up and you'll be able to see her size. The Nkuhuma lionesses are not the largest lionesses I've ever seen, but they're decent sized. Proud Cat Mama, it is healing up. You're asking about the injury that's on this lioness, and she's just over to our right-hand side here. There, you can kind of see it there. It is healing up, but it's in that funny little spot, so when she lies down on her belly, it sort of folds up into her haunches there, and then when she gets up, obviously it opens up again. But we've been watching her over the past few days, as the Nkuhumas have been around a lot, and she doesn't struggle with that back left foot. She's obviously hunting with the rest of the pride, because they managed to get that snack, so I think it looks worse than it actually is for her. And it's just going to stay irritated until it properly scabs over, and it's going to be hard to properly scab over in the area that it is. But I'm not too worried about it. Doing some nice yoga stretching there. These lions have been so lazy that myself and Kharid have been sitting here going, oh, it would be so nice to cuddle up, and they keep grooming each other. All right, well, lions. Lions are found throughout Africa, and most of the population numbers are sort of sub-Saharan Africa and down. Their numbers are not as good as we would like. They had about 200,000 in the wild 100 years ago, and now we're down to around 20,000 in the wild. So that's a very large drop. And a lot of it has to do with loss of habitat because of human growth, and also because of things like highways and logging areas, and basically making these little tiny pockets and islands of wilderness, which makes it very difficult to propagate a species when you're stuck in sort of one area. Now, lions can move across highways, and logging areas are not necessarily the best places, but it's not that they can't be there. It's just harder because that means that their prey species are not there. And then when you get highways splitting up areas and then human settlements around them, again, that's going to push away prey species. And any organism in the habitat in which they live needs to have shelter and food. They need their resources to be able to survive. So when their resources are pushed out, that's what then pushes them out into smaller and smaller pockets. And then you end up with scenarios where when these pockets become too small, the genetics actually can't survive. So we've talked about how lions can inbreed up to about 10 generations. Nature doesn't really let them get up sort of towards 10. It can happen, but anything past that, you're going to start seeing difficulties. You're going to get a pool of genetics whereby you could have a pool of genetics that the strong material, the good material's there, but when it gets too saturated with the same genes, you then tend to have crop-ups of sort of, three-leggeds. And we as humans, what is that called, Gerd, when you cut yourself and you keep bleeding? Hemophilia. I think that's what it's called. And that's from too many different pools of genes, or sorry, too many similar genes coming together. You get symptoms like that. And so it makes it very difficult then for that population to survive. It also makes it difficult because let's say that population is hemmed in by a lot of human populations. Mange comes from domesticated animals and can affect, as we know, it affected the Styx pride, another one of our prides here. It can affect wildlife. And if your genetic pool is too concentrated, and if you are unable to be as healthy as you need to be due to lack of prey species, something like mange coming in can have a large detrimental effect. So there's all these different aspects that play up with it. And then last but not least, you also have a poaching issue when it comes to wild lions. So there's a difference between hunting and poaching. Hunting is legal, poaching is illegal. And a lot of what happens with the lions with poaching is they're poached specifically for their bones to be used in traditional medicines in countries, some countries in the Asia part of the world. And then also when you put out snares for subsistence poaching, so those subsistence poachers are looking for things like wildebeest and bushbuck and kudu for meat to eat, you'll end up with something like a buffalo or a rhino or you name it getting also stuck in there. And I've personally seen lion and leopard getting stuck in those snares. Sometimes we're able to get to them and help them, but a lot of those times it's not possible. Then you also end up with scenarios when you have too many humans around where lions then, when you've got open ecosystems where lions are now interacting with the humans in a way that is detrimental to the humans. So meaning that they're attacking cattle or goats or possibly humans themselves. And then of course humans also want to survive. And so there's a huge negative impact and interaction that way. Now that's not to be said that there isn't a lot of efforts happening to make everything a bit better. Molly, you'd like to know, since we were talking about diseases and things, does this little cub still have a cough? Molly, I haven't seen this cub with a cough, but I'm assuming that you have seen this cub with a cough. I haven't seen it cough today or the past few times I've seen them. So I'm going to say no for now. Yes, but they really are being energy efficient at the moment. This is what we call a flat cat sighting. Lou saying to me she likes how I call them energy efficient instead of lazy. Well, Lou, I believe energy efficiency is a type of laziness. I just think it's a better way to put it. I'm sure all of you would agree, but I think maybe we should all start using that when we have a lazy day. We'll just call it energy efficiency. Shelley, you want to know how far I'm sitting from the pride? Shelley, I'm about 20 meters from them, about 20 yards. And they are happy, happy, happy as can be, and obviously not concerned with us in the slightest. Lions are very good at, as long as we respect their space bubble, they're very good at letting you just be around. They're also very good at tuning out sort of my voice and the vehicle sound, not that the vehicle's on right now, and the vehicle sounds, and still carrying out on about their business. I've had a few interactions on foot that are a little bit different with lions. That's because of our predator vision. Our eyes are in front rather than on the side of the head. And also we stand on two legs so we can look a little bit aggressive and imposing. But I've also walked into lions, sort of bumped them on while tracking them, and they were behind some thick bushes, and they just sort of stick up their head and go, okay, well, as long as you're there, I'm fine. And sometimes you come up to them and they're lying like this. If the wind's right, they'll never know that you're there and then have no reaction at all. But as you can see, they're just doing what lions do, which is sleeping. We had another vehicle that joined us for a few minutes, but obviously with these sleepy lions, they're going to carry on and look for something else. Now, Tristan, my friend, I think there's something that emits from your beard that attracts all of these leopards, because I believe I just heard that you have found another one. So let's head on over to him so that you can have a look. And looking possibly for some food to eat, and then our lions really haven't moved too much at all. We've got another vehicle that's joined us in the sighting to come and have a look. but everybody is pretty out for the count. I don't think that they're going to move too much today unless something comes close enough for them to hunt. And then I believe Tundi has popped up again. She's a little bit farther south from where we are, but it does not seem as if she's moving in our direction. And the wind is blowing, so I don't think that if she does keep going where she's going, that these lions will smell her, which is a good thing. And then, oh, that's the update I wanted to give you all. There was 4 cheetah that were just found on Torchwood, which is east of us, and they're moving south. So I'm really hoping that they pop up around Chitwa area for us to maybe view later today. That would be absolutely excellent. The last cheetah we saw was that injured male with Tristan at Twin Dams. So it would be fantastic if those 4 pop up and we can get a view of them. Then we will have had our cat trifecta for the day today, on a Monday, nonetheless. So of the 8 big cats in the world, Africa has 3 of them. The lions, which you can see here, leopard, which you saw earlier with Tristan, and then again with Tristan, and also with Ralph. And then, of course, the cheetah, which we haven't seen yet today in the Mara, and of course we haven't seen them here. But it would be great if we can get them at either place. So lions are the largest of the 3 big cats that we have here. And their hunting style, although it doesn't look like they do much work at the moment as they're being so energy efficient, hashtag not lazy, they smell and then they stalk, or they see and then they stalk, and then they try to get as close as possible and then do a bit of running and sort of pounce on their prey. Leopards have a similar fashion of hunting. Cheetahs will do that, but cheetahs also like to use their speed and run down their prey. Now, the hyenas that Ralph was with earlier, they also can run quickly, but not as quick as a cheetah. They do maybe about 40-45 kilometers an hour, but they are built for endurance, so they'll run and they'll run and they'll run and they'll run, and they run their prey down that way. The prey tires out before they do. Now, hyenas hunt, but they also scavenge. Lions are the same. So lions will hunt, but if lions come across something that's already dead, they'll definitely scavenge off of that kill, no problem. I've also seen leopard doing that. I've seen cheetah doing it less frequently. Lorna, you would like to know how many lion prides make Africa their home. Did I hear that correctly, Lou? So, Lorna, I couldn't give you the number of prides across sub-Saharan Africa. There are, in the wild, there's roughly 20,000 lions. Some estimates say 25,000, but the estimates that are more conservative say 20,000. And yes, those could be broken up into hundreds of prides, as well as coalitions of males, and sometimes males just on their own. Oh, that little one's gone to nurse. And sometimes you'll find that it might be a female on her own, although it's a little bit more rare, but it does happen. Our little one has woken up from his nap and has decided to go and have a snack there by Mum, nursing away. So this little one will be eating meat now, but it also still nurses. It probably nurses a little bit more than it eats meat, but it's growing very quickly, and so it needs to supplement its growing body with lots of nutrients. And mother's milk is still very tightly packed with nutrients, highly packed with nutrients, I should say, rather. And then the meat that it's eating, it's also helping in growing those bones in that body. And this is also because little ones like this also have quite a high metabolism. So if at this age, at about 3 months, it was only eating meat and the pride is only killing something, say, once a week, it would be very difficult for this little one to survive. So obviously that's how nature has devised the ability to not just grow them, but to keep them alive, is so that they nurse and eat meat. Tandi's cub will do the same sort of thing. She'll nurse and eat meat as well. Gizmo, what an interesting question. You would like to know if lions have antibacterial properties in their saliva. So, Gizmo, I think maybe you're thinking along the lines of eating rotting meat and sort of getting sort of those things in their mouth and then also in their digestion. Gizmo, I can't give you 100% answer on that. I don't know if maybe Tristan or someone else knows. Also, maybe for the cleaning and grooming, you're thinking antibacterial properties. I would assume that they have some sort of high tolerance, not just within their bodies, but within their mouths, to the ability of grooming and cleaning off all that gunk and everything that gets around them. But I couldn't give you a 100% scientific answer on that one. It's a really interesting thought, though. We might be, whoever we're going to next, Lou, I think maybe if we could ask them, they might know a little bit more about that than I do. Steph might actually know more about that than I do. Steph's brain is very large and retains information a lot better than mine. Now, it's interesting, as it warms up and the clouds sort of start petering away, the area that they're lying in is actually going to start being quite sunlit. So they're going to have to start moving out of where they are and into some deeper shade. I don't think they're going to move too far, but it's definitely around in this area for today. So this afternoon, I think this is where we will start and see if they are still around. All right, let's go pick Steph's big brain while he's busy on bushwalk and see what he has to say about antibacterial properties in the saliva of lions.